Can Arizona State pull off an incredible upset and beat the Texas Longhorns? Today we're going to take a look at what this underdog team can do against a Texas team that is playing really well as of late and what they can do to pull off this upset. We'll take a look at the players that will play a role in that, as well as the keys to making sure that the Arizona State Sun Devils' magical season continues. Now, when you look at this team, this is a team that's been really fun to watch and a team that's kind of surprised us in a lot of ways. This is a team that started off the year with, I think there were some concerns early on because we knew Mississippi State wasn't going to be a great team, and Arizona State only beat them by 7. They only beat Texas State by 3 on the road. They lose to Texas Tech. In fact, they lost to Texas Tech and Cincinnati, and that was probably the two losses early in the season that people probably thought maybe this isn't the team that is going to be that good, but I think they looked better for sure. They were definitely a better team. I don't know if anybody predicted a college football playoff run. It's really not after that Cincinnati loss. So this is a team that has exceeded expectations. They continue to win. They're on a 6-game winning streak. They absolutely dominated Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. So this is a team that is very much ready to be here, ready to play the role of underdog, and the line kind of explains exactly why they're the underdog. They're a 14-point underdog right now, and it's easy to see why. Texas is such a good team, and Texas has done a lot of really good things in the regular season. In the SEC championship game, they struggled a little bit, but overall, this has been a team that has done some really good things. So if you're Arizona State, there are certain things you need to do really well if you're going to pull off this upset. Beating Texas will not be easy. However, we're going to take a look at what is the path for them to do that. And there are a few keys that will help them in that endeavor. And there are certain players that we'll talk about who play a role. And then we'll also talk about who Texas has and who you have to pay attention to because there's plenty of players on Texas that are going to play a big role and be difficult to block and be difficult to beat. Those are going to be things that could get Arizona State in trouble, but also leads to them to their path to success. The first thing you're going to have to do is get Quinn Ewers out of rhythm. One thing that we've seen teams do to Texas that has caused some issues is make sure the passing attack isn't a factor. Getting to Quinn Ewers is going to be a big-time key for Arizona State. Against Clemson, Ewers was decent, 26 to 43, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Getting turnovers will be huge. I think that's going to be a thing that this defensive line, the linebackers, guys like Shamari Simmons, sending unique pressures that Texas hasn't seen, getting to the quarterback. I think the biggest thing for Arizona State is we've seen from this past weekend, the underdog has to get going early. And that's something that none of these teams, Clemson might be the exception, none of these teams that were on the road last weekend could do. SMU was out of the game before it really even started. And you look at a team like Indiana, that game finished 27-17, but they were never really in it. Tennessee was never really in the game against Ohio State. Clemson, you can make an argument, was not really in the game despite the 38-24 finish. So getting off to a hot start is a big key. So getting Quinn Ewers out of rhythm and also getting Cam Scatabo involved early. Finding ways to get this offense going, getting some momentum in your favor is going to be huge, because if you fall behind Texas, I don't know if Arizona State has the players, has the ability to make a comeback like that if you're down 21-0 like some of these teams were. I don't know if they have that, and that's going to be a big key. And really, even regardless of falling behind, you just have to get off to a good start, because that builds a lot of confidence in your players. That gets guys like Sam Levitt, who need to be a factor, involved early, and you get a good confidence about your team that can build into the third quarter, the fourth quarter, the whole second half is really where that's going to help you a ton. Because if you're playing from behind early and your team is struggling, it might get out of hand quickly. So finding that momentum early, find that confidence, and also limiting those explosive plays. Texas has had a number of explosive plays in every game that they played. Last weekend against Clemson, Jaden Blue was absolutely phenomenal. Quintrevian Wisner was absolutely phenomenal. Matthew Golden only caught 2 passes, but averaged nearly 25 yards per catch. These are guys that you have to worry about and have to pay attention to. And we all know that Kenny Dillingham and his staff are doing everything they can to make sure here's where we put our guys in successful positions. Again, sending unique pressures, finding ways to get Sam Levitt involved and confident early. Those are going to be things that you have to do if you're Arizona State, because beating Texas, like I said, is not going to be easy. We've seen what this team is capable of doing when they play really well. And if you let them get out to a big lead early, then you're really going to be in trouble. So getting this game close or even taking a lead, I don't think that's out of the question either. I think that Arizona State is very capable of surprising us, and we've seen what they can do when they build momentum. The Big 12 championship game is a perfect example of that. And then even you look at some of the games that they played that were close. The reason why they won those games in the third and fourth quarters because they started off really well or they found ways to bounce back. And this is a team that's resilient, and that's going to be huge in this game. We'll talk about players for Arizona State. Cam Scatterbo remains one of the biggest stars for the Big 12 college football. How he didn't make it to New York for the Heisman Trophy finalists, we're not really sure. That's something that's going to motivate him for sure. Over 1,500 yards, 19 touchdowns. He is the workhorse. He's really fun to watch. If you haven't watched film on him, I highly recommend it. He's just a bowling ball running through the trenches, tackling him. Even if you're in good position and have good form, you're probably not going to tackle him with just one guy, and really not the first tackler for sure. So that's something to keep an eye on. Texas is definitely going to have him circled for sure. Sam Leavitt is really the X factor here. This is a young quarterback that has grown a ton as the season has gone. The season has progressed, and Sam Leavitt has progressed as a quarterback. Over 2,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. Now, that is huge. This is a guy who takes care of the football, and he plays with a lot of confidence. I think that's one thing I really want him to hone in on is let's focus on I know where I'm going with the football. I'm going to be confident. I'm not going to second guess myself. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the preparation coming into this week. That is something that he can take care of before the game even begins. I think a lot of this is going to be what is Texas going to present that could provide some challenges. And those are things that you can prepare for ahead of time. You don't have to get into the game and think, okay, well, what are they giving me? Now, there's going to be some adjustments, obviously, but Sam Leavitt can prepare to be a factor early and often because, again, a lot of that confidence is going to come from him because Texas is going to try to take away Scatterbo and basically say, hey, Sam Leavitt, you're going to beat us. And if you can, that opens up the entire offense for Arizona State. Now, another question for Arizona State, what is Jordan Tyson's status? I've seen reports that he says that he's trying to make a college football playoff return, but I don't know how healthy he is or how likely that is. If he's not able to go, Xavier Guillory is a guy I really like to watch. He is still someone that maybe isn't a Jordan Tyson, but can still take the top off the defense, averaging nearly 17 yards per catch, an explosive playmaker. There are a lot of guys that need to step up in Tyson's absence. Guillory is one of them. Stopping Texas offense is going to be a challenge. I don't think that even if you feel confident about Arizona State, slowing down Texas offense is going to be a challenge. You look at what they did to Clemson last weekend. The offensive line was on fire. The rushing attack was playing really well. So stopping the run is going to be a factor. You also have to figure out a way to slow down the speed they have on the outside. So guys like Shamari Simmons and Xavier Alford are going to have their hands full. That being said, I don't know if Texas has seen a player like Shamari Simmons. This is a guy who plays essentially with his hair on fire. He plays with a ton of energy. He plays with a ton of confidence. He is, as soon as the ball is snapped, he is exploding off the ball. He is a really fun player to watch, someone who has done a lot of good things at the nickelback position, in the slot, whether it's near the line of scrimmage, in coverage, whatever you need from him. He has been a really fun player to watch, and he's a tone setter in this defense. Clayton Smith is going to have a big role as well. This defensive line is going to have their hands full. Fortunately, Clayton Smith is familiar with Texas from his time in Oklahoma. And I think that you look at this defensive line, they're going to be a big X factor with stopping this offense because Texas has a really good offensive line. But if this defense, like I said, can create unique pressures and find different looks that will confuse this offensive line, that's going to build confidence in them. That allows guys like Shamari Simmons to sneak in and confuse that offensive line even more, confuse Quinn Ewers, and that could lead to some turnovers that get you the ball back. And again, we talked about momentum, we talked about confidence. Getting turnovers, getting the ball back to your offense is going to be a great way to keep yourself in this game. And then when it comes down to it, if you're still in the fourth quarter, it's anybody's game. And you can find a way to pull off the upset from there. It all starts up front, though. If you're able to get that and you're able to create those issues for Texas early and often, I feel really good about where Arizona State is going to be. Now, if you're Arizona State, there are a lot of players for Texas that you have to worry about. I think the biggest one that everyone will kind of look at is the rushing attack. And I think that that's been the biggest X factor for Texas. When Texas is running the football really well, they've been a really dominant team. They've been very tough to stop. Jaden Blue is a very difficult player to stop. He has quickness and speed for days. Tackling him in the open field is a nightmare. So if he gets into open space, Arizona State fans are going to be really nervous about what he can do. So keeping him contained, keeping Quintrevian Wisner contained, those are going to be big things as well. Stopping the passing attack is another thing. We talked about what Shamari Simmons and Xavier Alford have to do. Quinn Ewers and Matthew Golden are a really good connection. Golden leads the team in receiving. Ewers obviously has been the starting quarterback. You could see Arch Manning as well. So Arizona State's going to prepare for both of those guys. We'll see what Isaiah Bond's status is at wide receiver. That's another player that they'll have to worry about. They'll have to focus on and slow him down. Golden and Bond have a ton of speed that is tough to stop. Same thing with, Gunnar Helm is a tough player. He doesn't have the speed, but he's a unique player in coverage that you have to worry about. The defensive line, just like Texas offensive line, has a ton of talent. Ethan Burke kind of emerged in the Clemson game and showed that he's still a factor. Colin Simmons is a nightmare. Vernon Broughton is a guy to keep an eye on. They have a ton of players on the defensive line, so I'm curious to see how Arizona State handles that, what their offensive line does against that really good and talented defensive line for Texas. Now, with Jordan Tyson out, throwing to Jahdae Barron is going to be a difficult challenge no matter who it is, but especially without Jordan Tyson, a guy who can come down with passes. Maybe that's a little bit of a concern for this offense, but we'll see. I really like the confidence, like I said, that Sam Levitt plays with. I don't think he's going to second guess anything. He's going to know where Jahdae Barron is on the field. He's going to know where he's throwing, but he's not going to second guess it. If he wants to go down to Jahdae Barron's side, if he wants to throw to that side, he is not going to waste any time. He's going to make that decision. He's going to make it confidently, and that's really what's going to help them. If you're limiting turnovers, which so far they've done a really good job of that, you feel pretty good. Arizona State, though, I think that there is a path for them to beat Texas. You have the confidence early. If you're in this game early and you're not letting Texas bully you around, you're finding unique ways to get pressure on Quinn Ewers, because we've seen what happens when Quinn Ewers is pressured. That is a guy who can be rattled. That is a guy who you can get the football away from and get the ball back to your offense. There are ways for Arizona State to beat Texas. It's just a matter of putting a good game plan together and finding ways to be successful early and often. If Arizona State does that, this is going to be an incredible game, a big-time upset, and it's going to get Arizona State to the next round and continue building that confidence and build that confidence in a team that really thinks that they can win it all.